Hi, well, I just bought this Makita finishing sander and I thought I'd do a little review of it. Now, I've been using this Porter-Cable 330 block sander for ages. I've had this for somewhere between 20 and 25 years, and it's just always worked great. But I'm trying to incorporate dust collection into all my tools. So I decided to try a finished sander that had built-in dust collection, and Makita seemed to have some good written reviews. So let's take a look. Registration, manual. Can't imagine there's too much involved with this. Does look like it has the option of using paper bags for collecting the dust, which I don't think I'll be using. I intend on connecting this to my vacuum. They give you some sandpaper. It's funny, 60 grit. I don't know if I've ever used that coarse of sandpaper. And 100 and 150. This is the device for puncturing holes in the sandpaper, the dust collection. Built-in canister for collecting the dust. So I'm going to give this a try, but I do anticipate using my vacuum when I'm using this. But sometimes it's nice to be able to collect dust without having a vacuum. The smell of fresh rubber in the morning. And power cord. It's a nice long power cord. Let's just compare these to the Porter-Cable. Well, same length as a Porter-Cable, which I've always thought was good. Pad looks just a tiny bit smaller. To tell you the truth, the pad on the Porter-Cable has always been a little bit smaller than a quarter sheet of sandpaper. So this is probably a better fit. It certainly feels heavier. It is bigger, of course. I mean, this thing's really built like a tank. I have no doubt this would outlast this. These go for 90 bucks thereabouts. I just bought this for 50 bucks. But it's got dust collection, which I'm really looking forward to. And I'd be curious to see if it transfers less vibration into the hand. Well, I've been using this for about half an hour. I did a lot of testing on this 2x4. It's nice and smooth now. And I wanted to test the comfort, the vibration, the dust collection with the bag and with the vacuum attached to this port. I can say that it's pretty comfortable to use. This operates at 14,000 orbits per minute. The Porter-Cable is 15,000. It's not as smooth as a Porter-Cable, but it's not dramatic, the difference between the two. So it's pretty close. Comfort-wise, you have to hold the sander on the top. You can't hold it on the side like this because your hands touch the pad area. But with the porta cable, you grab it like this and your hands are nowhere near the pad. So for long periods of sanding, porta cable is more comfortable. Okay, I'm going to turn this on and then I'm going to turn the porta cable on so you can hear the difference between the two. And notice how quick this stops when you turn it off versus the porta cable. Pretty dramatic. I really like the fact this shuts down quick, but you can also hear that porta cable is it certainly sounds more powerful. Now for the dust collection, I ran it with the included bag, and it definitely picks up the dust, but there's still a lot left on the table. I did measure in terms of what's being thrown out into the air. But when you attach the vacuum, you get much better dust collection. But it still really does not compare at all to your typical random orbit sander. Those things seem like they collect 98% of the dust. Even with a vacuum, you're probably collecting maybe 90%. Probably not even that much. Still substantially better than zero dust collection with the porta cable. Now, I think the lack of high quality dust collection goes to just the ability to pull a vacuum with the built-in bag, and even with the vacuum attached, you have these 6 holes, but they're deceptive. They look like they're open channels, but they're not. There's just a little hole on the edge of each one of these. And then the paper you use, and I'll demonstrate a little bit how you punch these holes, but you can see quite a bit different size, and the punched hole is very small relative to these holes. Now, I've seen that you can buy pre-cut paper, self-stick paper, and those holes seem to be the same size, so maybe you'd get slightly better dust collection. It's still pretty good. I'm still happy that I bought this for the dust collection, because even 80% is great compared to 0 that I was getting. All right, now let me demonstrate how you attach the sandpaper. In this case, the porta cable seemed to me much more convenient, which I'll show too as a comparison. So you have to undo these clips. Part of the problem is, as soon as you put this down, the clip shuts. So I actually found it easier to, camera angle here, to have this lever on the edge of your table workbench, which I'm simulating with this 2x4. And again, let this fall. And here this dust collection port kind of gets in the way a little bit. There. So it works, but let me show you the porta cable. So in my mind, the Porta-Cable is much easier to change the paper. And also the pad on the Porta-Cable is thicker and a bit more squishy than on Makita. Makita is definitely thinner and more firm. But that means on the Porta-Cable, when you're tightening this down, you can compress the pad and squeeze the sandpaper into the clamp, and then when you let go, the sandpaper lays much tighter against the pad, and that's much harder to do on the Makita. I haven't really been able to get it to lay as tight on the Makita pad. Now, attaching your vacuum to the Makita. This is really small. I have, I think, all the adapters you can imagine to connect up to all my different power tools, and I don't have anything that can connect up to this. This is some of the adapters I have from some of my other tools, and that's the smallest I can go. Too big. My recent purchase, which I really like, is this Rockler adapter kit to be able to connect up to your power tools, and it can't connect, same thing. So what I ended up doing before was during this little test is I put some blue tape around this to build it up, and I'll just be replacing the blue tape with duct tape. So and then it's effective, but the downside to that is once I put duct tape on this, I no longer will be able to connect the canister up, because I would anticipate there might be some times when it's just convenient to be able to use this instead of the vacuum. And I'm not going to be wanting to unwind a bunch of tape off this every time I want to do that. So that's definitely a downside of this tiny port that they put on here. Okay, well, let me demonstrate how the holes get punched. You've got your sandpaper. It's not very complex. And that's it. And there you go. One last oddity with this sander is that they include this device. It's a theft deterrent device, and apparently it's not only on the sander, but it's been seen on other tools. It's kind of odd that I guess they just ship it from the factory and the stores can make use of it, but you know, there's no obviously easy way to take it off. And believe me, you don't want to have this. It's just banging around, and serves no purpose once you own the tool. So let's see if I can break this off. Great. It's not snapping off like I was hoping it would. It's coming though. There. So if any of you actually have this sander and were wondering what that thing is, there's nothing in there worth keeping. Like this is the tag that the radio sensors would pick up. So that's not very user friendly. Well, in summary, I like this Makita. I'm glad I bought it. I'm really going to appreciate the dust collection on this. Now, I'm not going to get rid of my Porta cable, and I think for any projects where I'm going to be doing a lot of sanding with the detail, with a finish sander, I'll probably gravitate towards the Porta cable just because it's more comfortable. And I'll just have to deal with wearing dust collection and dust floating around the workshop. But for a lot of my shorter term uses for finish sander, I'll be grabbing the Makita. Now you might wonder, what purpose does a finish sander have in a workshop now with the advent of random orbit sanders, which have been around for a long time? I have multiple random orbit sanders. They work great. Dust collection is beautiful. But they're more aggressive than a finish sander. They're harder to control with one hand, I find. And if you're sanding the edges of components, you're much less likely to round over edges with this kind of a sander than you would with the random orbit sander. You can get wide variety of sandpaper for a finish sander. Anything you can imagine you can use on this guy. And I know you can get some crazy grits for the random orbit sander too, but they're much harder to come by. This guy, you can go down to your big box store, easily get 600-800 grit. You can go down to your automotive store and get into the thousands. So that's definitely convenient. Now this doesn't leave as nice of a finish as your random orbit sander, but in either case, those are not the last tools that touch my work. If it's something really nice that I'm making, because even your random orbit sander leaves swirl marks, even if they're really small, but they're there. So the last tool to touch my work is this. Just your sandpaper on a block. I love this. These Preppin, I think they're called Preppin blocks. These things are great. Just back and forth, gets rid of the swirl marks, and this is the last tool that touches your work. So it doesn't matter that this is not as nice as your random orbit sander. So if you don't have a finished sander, I'd consider adding one to your collection. I hope this review was helpful, and thanks for stopping by.